Come on, let's get some of the lads together. Let's have a good idea. Okay, yeah, all right. Come on, fellas. Get around the piano. Let's have a good go. Come on, then. You ready? Come on, you lot. Go on, then.
Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The imps are here to stay. Lincoln City are the team, the Reds is their name. Stinsel Bank is their home ground and football is their game. So come and cheer them on, you lads, support them all the way. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white, the imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our delight.
Morning all. Here we are on a crisp morning in the Lincolnshire Wolds. In about an hour and 20 minutes, I'm going to be recording the first of two podcasts today. The first is with a Lincoln City legend, the one club man, 300 plus appearances. One of the few players not released when a manager had a massive clear out. It's going to be fascinating talking to him, and I'm hoping it's going to appeal to him, fans of all ages, and I mean all ages. So really excited about that. And then tonight I'll be recording a podcast again. The bog standard normal podcast. I think it's myself and Ben this evening, which will be quite good. So yeah, lots going on today, but I'm out doing my dog walk at the moment. And then as I was flicking through Twitter this morning on having my breakfast, I was reading lots of tweets and comments about lifting the 3pm Blackout. And lots of kind of positivity from that, from Premier League fans and armchair supporters and people like that. And it really boils my piss, if I'm honest, that they're even considering doing it, because we'll call it the 3pm blackout, but I'll come on to that in a minute. But the blackout that prohibits live football being shown in a 2.5 hour slot on a Saturday afternoon is designed and aimed to protect those clubs that are not on television through things like attendances. Now, I've seen a counter argument to say, well, if there was blackout was lifted, more money would come into the game and that would filter down. And what we're talking about there is trickle down economics, aren't we? Which blatantly doesn't work. It's why we're all suffering at the moment under a corrupt government. But do you know what I mean? It doesn't work. It's always saying, well, if we give more people money at the top, it'll trickle down. That doesn't work. But fundamentally, let me explain what we call as the 3pm blackout actually is. It's a European directive, okay? So it's not an English thing, it's a UEFA thing that allows a country to designate a 2.5 hour slot at any time of the week on which professional football or football will not be shown live on television. And it applies not only to your country, but to other countries. So, for instance, you wouldn't be able to see an Italian match were it played at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. They could not broadcast it. Simply put, there could be no football shown at 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, on a Saturday where 50% of the Football League's games are kicking off at 3 p.m. And that's crucial as well. So, for instance, there are international breaks where clubs, and I've just read this on The Athletic, so it must be true. There are international breaks where the Premier League and Championship do not play, where also the League One and League Two tends to be affected these days as well. Technically, clubs could actually broadcast 3 p.m. kickoffs on those days. It's also why I think it's the Saturday afternoon as well. It's why sometimes you can watch the 3 p.m. iFollow kickoff. I think when we played Ipswich Town on 153 a couple of years ago, you were able to watch that on iFollow, even though it was a 3 p.m. kickoff, because it wasn't on a Saturday afternoon. So that's the 3 p.m. blackout rule. The reason it causes so many issues is the big clubs, and we're talking here Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool. We're not talking clubs that believe themselves to be big, the Sunderlands, the Sheff Wednesdays, etc., because they're at the moment in a similar boat to us, I think, in this respect. So the big clubs have full stadiums, lots and lots of armchair supporters all around the country who want to be able to watch every minute of their team in action, and it's pandering very much to the modern football fan, as I call them, which is kind of the younger person who doesn't go to games, who wouldn't go to watch, Lincoln City play Ipswich Town, or they wouldn't go and watch Harrogate versus Salford, and they would never think about getting up and going to watch Lincoln United versus whoever Lincoln United played, Basford United, for instance. So it's aimed at that sort of person, and I think if you use Twitter and you flick through football Twitter, it's aimed very much at the sort of person who uses words like ratio and all that sort of garbage. The reason that the people want to lift it isn't so that the likes of Lincoln City can get some money from television rights earned by Chelsea and Arsenal and Liverpool. It's because the big clubs want more money, and there's been a desire in football for a very long while for those bigger clubs to move towards streaming models where they can stream their own games, charge subscription directly for those games, take the revenue themselves, and it's a way of cutting out the middleman, a way of cutting out, the lower division clubs. No matter what they say, no matter how they try and package it, that's what basically is what I feel the aim is for the bigger clubs. It's so that they can have more of the pie. And the argument they'll give is, well, it'll be a bigger pie, we'll be having more of it, but there'll be more to share around. It's bollocks. It is. To coin a phrase from the girl that was talking about the economy on Twitter yesterday, it's just all bollocks. It will kill lower league football. Now, going on to the reasons why, I saw, and this isn't a criticism of these people at all, I saw one person, Lincoln City fan, comment on Twitter yesterday, or comment on Facebook yesterday, one of the two. Why would you go to watch a game if you can see it on iFollow? And another genuine Lincoln City fan said, but it would be brilliant for when we were away, we could watch every minute. And do you know what? It was great in a way during the COVID season because we saw every minute of Lincoln. I don't think I missed a single game that season on iFollow. I missed every game, and when you're at a game, you see so much more than you do on iFollow. But it was nice to feel connected. And people spoke when we went back against Fleetwood about the disconnection they'd felt during the COVID season. I felt closer to that team, to the Teo Edens, the Brennan Johnsons, the Morgan Rogers, than I did last season to the Chris Maguires and the Dan and Lunderloos, because I could see every game. And I can understand how people who perhaps don't kind of appreciate the full gravity of the 3pm Blackout would go, I can understand that would be a good thing. Surely that would be a positive thing. I buy that. I can understand it. It wouldn't be a good thing. And here are several reasons why. First of all, it would impact attendances. Now, it's all right for Lincoln City fans to say, well, we get 8,600 on a Champions League night anyway. We are very much the exception to the rule. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a discussion with somebody on social media about club size, and I commented that I felt we were a similar size club to Exeter and Cambridge, not to the teams that we're clinging on to above us. And I put Oxford and Plymouth into that as well. Maybe there's a little bit of a size difference there, but not a huge difference. So we're clubs that get between kind of 6,000 and 10,000 supporters, relatively well supported in our local area. Geographically, we don't have an awful lot of competition from big clubs. Certainly if you look at Exeter and Plymouth, and you look at Cambridge, Norwich, but there's a fair distance. It's not like we're London clubs, so we kind of have a slightly different demographic. That said, if Premier League matches were shown at 3pm, how would that impact season ticket sales? It might do. There are numerous Lincoln City fans I know who support two clubs. So they'll support Lincoln and Leeds, Lincoln and Liverpool, Lincoln and Man United. That's their prerogative. I don't get that, but that's their prerogative. If they could then watch all of their Premier League clubs' matches at home on a Saturday afternoon, would they do so? It's possible. It might only affect us to the tune of 20, 30 season tickets, 400 quid a pop. I'll let you do the maths. I'm not going to do them myself because I'm crap at maths, but it's a relatively decent sum. And then if you're affecting the walk-in as well, particularly on the evening matches. So particularly we played Morecambe at home last season. If you remember correctly, it was a Tuesday night. It was bitterly cold. The attendance wasn't brilliant. Would have been lower had any Premier League games or big Premier League games from that evening also being shown on television. It's an absolute certainty. Now, the further you get down the football pyramid, the worse that gets. And when you get to somebody like Lincoln United or Gainsborough Trinity, whose attendances are measured in 3 figures, not 4 figures, and that's not meant to sound disrespectful, losing 10 or 15 people off that number can have a massive impact. Even if you're paying £10 to get in, and let's say 10 people don't turn up, that's 100 quid. But that's 10 people who might have had a pie and a pint as well. So it could be 15, 20 quid a head. Let's say 20 quid a head, 10 people, it's 200 quid over the course of a season, over a course of 24 seasons or something like that. You're talking a couple of thousands of pounds, and a couple of thousands of pounds is a significant amount. It would impact lower league, non-league football. It would drive some non-league teams out of business, because some of the people that go to watch non-league teams like Lincoln United will support a Premier League club, a local club, and then they'll go to non-league games as well. And I see many Lincoln City fans on a Saturday afternoon when we're away in the darkest depths of Bristol or something like that, they go to watch a local non-league game. And would that happen? Would those teams get the walk-in business if at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon they could pull up a chair in their local pub and watch Arsenal and Liverpool or whoever was broadcast, whoever they want? They could sit in their lounge and flick through 4 or 5 different clubs. I'm not sure they would. So it would hit the attendances. From a fan perspective point of view, if over the long term there was a long-term degradation of attendances, what would that mean for Lincoln City? If we were to lose 10, 20, 30, 100 fans year on year, you only need to have a bad spell for attendances to plummet. We've proven that in from 2005 and 6 or 2007 when we were in the playoffs, and then it dropped right down when we were in 2011. And then you have to work massively hard to get those supporters back. How many of the 1,500 to 2,000 supporters that were coming to watch us lose against Welling and Boreham Wood and Bromley at home would have stayed at home? Maybe a handful, maybe again, maybe 20, 30, 40, maybe 100, but it would have had a serious financial impact. I mean, it is a terrible, terrible thing for lower league football, and it would be a terrible, terrible thing for Lincoln City. And it amuses me somewhat. I'm going to move on to the Premier League now and their kind of stance on this, and they're driving this, because that's what I feel the driver is. Big clubs wanting their own streaming rights, and even clubs outside of England wanting their own streaming rights. I think that there was a company who showed, I think it was La Liga games at 3 p.m. on a Saturday in the UK, and were told not to a couple of years back, and they said it wasn't conducive for modern football. No, it's not conducive for the modern financial model around football. Football hasn't changed fundamentally. The way we support football, the way that a football fan who goes to games views his club and understands how he has to support it, has not changed. It hasn't changed since the 50s and 60s. The method by which we do that, the way we consume our programs, the things we can buy at the ground, the whole match day experience has changed. But fundamentally, supporting a football club through your wallet has not. And yesterday, as a typical example, I was at the library. I was doing a microfoil to see how it worked and just understand it so that I can use it for future articles. And I covered the 93-94 season, all through every football echo from that season, and took some screenshots. And the number of letters in there that could have been written this season was phenomenal. Ticket prices paying to get in too high. Lincoln City not serving up the sort of entertainment I expect for my money. I support the club with my wallet. It was all the same sort of comments you hear, and that was what, 30 years ago. It just goes to show you genuinely the way that we support, interact, and indeed help prop up our club at this level has not changed. Modern football isn't what you're led to believe it is. When people say modern football, they say the game has changed. But as I've just said, the game hasn't changed. The governance of the game has changed. The people who control the game has changed. And streaming football at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon is not in the best interests of football. It's in the best interests of a so-called breed of football supporter who have never been into a ground. I listened to a podcast yesterday, Under the Cosh, with Malcolm Christie. And it was really interesting, early doors. I haven't finished it yet, because Malcolm Christie was a player who was playing for Deeping Rangers, and he moved to Nuneaton Borough, and within 6 months he'd gone from Deeping Rangers to Derby in the Premier League. And he was talking how he came from a small Lincolnshire town called Stamford, and there was no big clubs near him, so he'd never been to a game, and he was a Man United fan. He said, and when I first walked out on the pitch at Nuneaton Borough, bear in mind, there was an actual crowd. That was my first experience of real football. It was interesting he said that, real football. Because how many supporters out there, Premier League supporters, have no experience of real football? They've never been in a ground. They've never heard a roar. And believe me, the roar from 1,500 supporters when a team comes out seems loud when all you've heard is on the television, watching it on Sky. And that's the breed of football fan that this appeals to. It's the breed of football fan who doesn't have any interest in going to games, who wants to sit at home for 2.5 hours and watch something and then go off and, okay, that's them, that's up to them. I get that. But at the same time, I think that lifting the 3 p.m. ban disregards football fans like ourselves. And let's come on to the EFL trophy now. and this is going to get controversial. I'm lucky there's 32 watching. Hopefully it won't go too far and wide. But the number of times that I have seen people talking about boycotting the trophy, as is their right, and I understand why people talk about boycotting the trophy. I understand why they do it. I get that. I won't go to the Newcastle under-21s game. No interest in watching my team play under-21s. So they boycott that because they say it's a route for Premier League clubs to get B teams into football, which would destroy our pyramid. I've also seen people who boycott those games who will then tweet about a Premier League game that they're watching, whether it's the same time, whether it's on a Saturday afternoon when Lincoln are away, whether it's 7 o'clock on a Sunday, whatever stupid times that the whole Premier League is reshuffled to accommodate the television viewer and not the fan in the stadium. And that baffles me. It baffles me. Your politics are so strong and so defined that you will cost Lincoln City money because you believe that the competition that they're going to compete in is a route to the destruction of football as we know it. That's fundamentally what the boycott is about. It's saying that the Premier League clubs want to put B teams into our structure, into our pyramid, and by the EFL Trophy having under-21 teams, that's the first step. It's the open gate, and now we're waiting for the horse to bolt. That, I don't subscribe to it as much because of the number of votes that it would need for this. Walk through a bloody cobweb. The number of votes that it would need from member clubs, etc. I can see the fear. I can also see the benefit. That is actually the sharp point of the trickle down economics of the television, isn't it? Television deal, we'll give you good prize money and good competition, decent, not good, decent money for this, and but you will play our kids' teams. And we've gone, yeah, well, that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do, kind of thing. But I can't understand why fans with those strong political beliefs will then sit and watch Premier League football, because watching football on television that you have paid for is the gateway to losing the 3pm Blackout, the gateway to lower attendances, the gateway to the destruction of lower league football. And it's far more blatant and far more possible than bringing B teams into the Football League structure. Far more so. If you're a Lincoln City fan and you subscribe to Sky Sports News and you are against the 3pm Blackout, you are a contradiction. You are a walking contradiction. And I'm not calling you, I'm not calling names, but it makes me so very, very, very angry. So very, very angry that there seems to be an acceptance that football in the Premier League is as it is. And, we don't want to play their under-21 teams, but we're happy to pay money that actively encourages them to seek to lift the 3pm Blackout, to seek to stream games at the same time as Lincoln City. And the World Cup's going to be the first time, I think, one of the first times where we may have clashes, we may have matches that clash with Lincoln. And I wonder how it will affect attendances. I mean, attendances haven't been brilliant this season. And I think the cost of living has something to do with that. But because we can stream games at 3pm on Saturday, by the way, it doesn't mean that pubs will be busier and benefit, because the amount of money that pubs have to pay to show these games is abhorrent. It's ridiculous. This isn't going to help any economy. It doesn't matter how you package it. You could talk about accessibility. 3pm kickoffs making football more accessible. Fucking hell, football has never been as accessible as this. On a Sunday morning, I can sit down and watch Lincoln's entire game. If you know how to use a VPN, which you shouldn't do, and as long as you pay properly for it through iFollow, of course, you can watch every Lincoln game anyway. But we shouldn't be making it easier. We shouldn't be making it more obvious. Football's not a television show. And a lot of people think that it is. It just makes me so angry. So angry. In fact, it made me so angry for the first time ever on a dog walk. I actually made some notes. I made some notes because of some of the, let's say, short-sighted, some of the ill-informed comments around the 3pm Blackout. And we'll have the conversation about it. Football will have the conversation. We will. And it will happen, sadly, because it's just one of those things that is almost inevitable. And, this government are looking at scrapping the fan-led review, trying to do away with independent governance in football, trying to take away all of the things that we were beginning to be implemented in the light of the COVID disaster, let's call it. because that's what it was. Football clubs almost going out of business, needing a handout. We thought we'd learned so many lessons at that point. The wage cap came in, the fan-led review was pushed through, and here we are 2 months later, or 2 years later rather, and it's just, now we might get away with the fan-led review. Now we might get away with, the wage cap's gone. There doesn't seem to be any serious talk to bring that back, certainly not in the paper. All the talk now is of lifting the 3pm blackout, which is the opposite of what we needed to do. It's the opposite of what COVID taught us. Football needs independent governance so that shit like this doesn't get pushed through, so that stuff like this doesn't be given the media attention it doesn't deserve, so that people with stupid Twitter names and, I support Man United, Liverpool and Arsenal in their bio, or Man United, Paris Saint-Germain and Barcelona, you don't understand football. If that's you and you're watching this, you're in the wrong fucking place. You can support Liverpool and Lincoln City, I don't mind that, but honestly, it makes me so angry. It makes me so angry, and I'm pretty angry actually these days anyway, for various other reasons. And this just tipped me over the edge with anger this morning. And it's a great job I've got a Lincoln City legend due on my laptop inside the next hour. It really is, because I want to talk Lincoln City and proper football, when all it was about was the fans and not the television. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at some comments. Sorry, I've gone off on one this morning. So Will Mitson, Sean Simon, Steve Jolland, good morning. Chris Keneally, morning mate, not surprised in the slightest, all about the money, pure and simple. Football isn't always what should be watched first and foremost live, it's not a TV show. 100%. Steve Barton, morning. Rob Clark rather, sorry Rob, morning. Don Pixley said hello, by the way. He said he thinks you're the same guy that he used to go to school with. Messaged me the other day. Kate, morning Gary. For me, I can see both sides of the argument. Gives those fans who aren't in a position to go to games a chance to watch their team, and I suspect the money coming in from them would outweigh the small number who wouldn't go, but I can also see the other side of things and concerns with the next generation of fans. The next generation of fans could rarely get that in attendance feeling and the bug. Joe, what? I don't actually subscribe to give fans who aren't in a position to go chance to watch their team £10-15 on iFollow. I don't buy that. I understand that it would give some UK-based fans an opportunity to watch Lincoln, but it would also give an awful lot of those fans the opportunity to watch other clubs instead of Lincoln, and I think that would happen. I think that the financial benefit coming into the football club would be much more would be incredibly insignificant when compared to the financial impact, not just season on season, but in the long term, over a 10-year period, the impact that it would have, not just financially, but culturally and commercially on our game as well. Just think that it is, this, if you're a boy, and I don't know whether Kate is or not, I don't think she is, but if you're a boycotter and you're going to boycott Newcastle under 21s and Lincoln, and you believe you're doing that with Lincoln City best interests at heart, you should be boycotting Sky Sports. You should be boycotting BT Sports instead. They're what you should be boycotting over and above, because it costs Lincoln City to open up the stadium against Newcastle under 21s. And I'm a hypocrite. I've just said I'm not going to go, not on principle, because I don't have any interest in watching under 21s play Lincoln City. But you know what? Now I've said this, I might go, because Lincoln have got to open up the stadium. They've got to turn on the floodlights. They've got to staff it. That's all costs. Games that we're forced to put on. We're forced to put these games on. It's not that Lincoln City have gone, we want to play in this competition. They say that out loud, I'm sure, but I think that there's a desire, if the opportunity was not there or was there would be a stronger stance. And I know a couple of years ago, members of our hierarchy put a different argument as to how the competition might work, that separated under 21 teams, I think, after the group stage. But there's never a willingness for dialogue, is there? But if you boycott Newcastle under 21 and Lincoln, and then you watch Liverpool or Arsenal or Man United on Sunday, you're part of the problem. Sorry, but you are. Steve says he's lost me. I'm not sure if that was because I'm ranting or because of the signal. And finally, Bubs, morning Bubs, hope you're well, pal. Look, so that's it for today. As you know, there's content coming. The normal podcast will be out tomorrow around lunchtime. I think I might not get to promote it because I'm actually off tomorrow. I'm going to come into Lincoln for the afternoon with my good lady fiance, and hopefully the podcast with the 300 appearance, one club man. I'll plan on dropping at some point over the weekend. Let me know what you think about the video today. Like and subscribe, all that sort of stuff. This goes out live on YouTube. Apparently, if we get likes and subscriptions on there, it's good. So yeah, let's have some. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.